1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move. Whatever click you choose, you better
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. You're down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. During those times, I accumulated some good stories and got good insight on things related to California prisons. I'm going to share some with y'all today. If you happen to like the video, be sure to leave a comment, subscribe. Most importantly, hit that notification bell. That way, anytime I drop a story, you'll be notified ASAP, and you can hop on it whenever you're ready. Also, yeah, that's me. I'm rapping on the intro like I told y'all, man. The flow is nothing like Curtis Blow. Don't get it twisted. If you want to check out the rest of my music, go to my YouTube playlist, scroll down to gas stations, and you're going to find me there, man. I'm telling y'all, man, I gas. So, yeah, man, you see the title, man. SURENO'S have Cali blacks in fear. I would say probably a month into doing my YouTube channel, I would get a lot of comments periodically, primarily from blacks who lived outside of California, but not always blacks, basically saying that, hey, chill, man, you know, the Mexicans got you guys down there in fear, right? And so I definitely believe that that's a false narrative, and it has been painted by, of course, YouTubers who are not black, you know. Before I started doing YouTube, and even now, there are not a whole lot of black YouTubers in the prison genre, you know. So you got dudes like Nate Dogg 916, Dirty Weather 916, and you also have two new great channels, GP the Beast, Another Real Story, and Damian Porter, right? But of course, you know, like I said, some of the narratives that have been put out there, to my experience, has not always been true, right? And so I definitely feel I have to address that, right? I've always come on my YouTube page, been unbiased, I've been fair. And so I definitely feel I have to be fair to my own people as well when addressing things that in my experience has not always been true. Keep in mind, California has about 34 different prisons. Each prison has maybe 4 or 5 yards on those prisons. So of course, you know, the few YouTubers that do California prison stories cannot be in all these places at once, and everybody has different experiences. We all know the California prisons are racially divided, and sometimes that does create hostility and racial animus among races, right? So if a dude happens to get out and does start doing YouTube, that doesn't necessarily mean he's always going to keep it fair. He's always going to keep it clean, uncut, so on and so forth. And also keeping it 100, like I always strive to do. I've had many Southerners come on my page and leave comments like, hey, chill, I was locked up. I've been in riots and wars against your people, and you guys are definitely soldiers, and we take nothing from you. So this video is definitely not aimed at those, because if you know, you know. Though I definitely feel that there have been some false narratives put out there on blacks, which is not 100% true, and I want to address those today. So I'm going to start with what I feel is one of the most longest rumors that have been put out there about blacks. So check this clip out.
But I did over 10 years in CDCR, and from my understanding of it is blacks don't have politics, as far as you don't have to go out to yard, you don't have to go to chow, all movements ain't mandatory.
So basically what he's saying is blacks don't have any type of daily activities that's deemed mandatory by their car. So now I want you guys to check out an interview that I did with Chances.
And on the yard, we stayed ready. We properly prepared, because every day we bust down. It was mandatory if you wasn't working that you go to the yard and we burping. We doing hundreds and hundreds of burpees. Then I got the homeboys on Usalama, which is security and on guard. While it's a lineup. Let's say if it's 10 of us, it's 5 that way and 5 as we face each other. We go down, they go down. We go down for hundreds. We do hundreds of these. And on each side of us, we got a homeboy who don't like to work out. Well, at least you got to show up, brother, show your respect. And he got Usalama. Don't watch us, you watch the crowd.
So now what Chances is talking about is when we was in Ironwood on Sea Yard in 2003. And within our car, we did have things that was mandatory. It was mandatory for the homies to come out on first unlock if they didn't have a job. We had a certain meeting place where we basically discussed the previous day's activities just to make sure there was no ongoing issues. Now, once again, this dude who has this YouTube page, I believe his name is Santos G, he goes on to say also that blacks don't check paperwork.
Do blacks have politics? Do they check paperwork? Do they check 128s? From my understanding of it is blacks don't have politics. They don't have no one like as far as checking paperwork, making sure that there ain't nobody that's telling, so on and so forth. They pretty much just run a free program.
So now let me show you guys a clip from a black prisoner who was actually incarcerated at the making of this video, who has been on a level 4 for 10 years, tell you about blacks checking paperwork.
Having your paperwork good is important because when you get to the yard, people gonna come and ask you questions. And when they come to your door and ask you questions, they gonna know, like, man, who are you? Where you from? And like where you came from. If you come from SNY yard, you come to a GP yard, they gonna get you. But yeah, man, so paperwork is important. And you know, what I mean by paperwork is like, I gonna ask for your 128 or your lockup order. And when you come to like another prison, you usually come from a hole or a reception, they gonna give you a paper, basically explain it, or your committee card, they will give you a paper, basically explaining like where you came from, your time, what's your charges, and all that shit. So yeah, people gonna want to see it. Yeah, depending on you, if your paperwork check out or not, you'll be able to program on AR. You feel me? If not, for sure, you got some people coming at you, are gonna be removing you off your yard, depending on where you from. I see some dudes, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gotta show nobody my paperwork, no high and mighty type person, but it's like, that's not gonna work. Some people paperwork don't come good, and different reasons why your paperwork might be bad is you might have been rolled off on another yard for some type of weird sexual acts, you feel me? You might be from the COs, could have told us anything, you feel me?
So you clearly hear him say that blacks do check paperwork. So my problem with those who are not black, when they make statements like that, they make the statement as if it is a blanket statement and every single black car does not check paperwork, which is not true. Now, is there a system that guarantees every single black person's paperwork will be checked? No. Reason being, like I've said many times before, you have many different factions within inside the blacks. So one particular car doesn't feel that it's their obligation or they're entitled to check the paperwork of another car. Now, yes, does every single car at every single prison check paperwork? I'll be the first to admit no. But to put it out there that blacks, every single black, or to insinuate that no black whatsoever checks paperwork is what I have a problem with. Some of the narratives that I have heard imply that blacks have no qualms whatsoever with certain type of degenerates being on the yard, like child and things of that nature. And I feel that they imply as if that you don't have black inmates who have a problem with none of that. You guys have to keep in mind, you know, we have daughters, we have mothers, we have aunties, we have sisters. So you definitely have many black convicts, Crips, Bloods, non-affiliates from down south, Kumi, BGF, brothers from up north who definitely disagree and don't condone with those type of individuals being on the yard. Maybe about a year and a half ago, I'm talking to one of my homies who's locked up in prison from my particular area, right? So one day we're on the phone, we're talking, I'm asking him, hey homie, what all homies is up there with you? So he named off a few homies. Then he said, hey, you know the homie Whoop-de-Whoop hit the yard and we hot right up on him. So of course, other black convicts on that yard from different cars had no idea that this dude had undesirable charges, right? But due to the fact, like I said, man, we have smaller little collectives and cliques. When this dude pulled up, the homies being from the same town that he was from automatically knew this dude had bad charges, hopped on this helmito immediately, hit him with the boops and the bops, and sent him on his way. So once again, it just all depends who's on that yard. I have dudes told me, man, they've done 10, 15 years and never had their paperwork checked. So like I said again, there's no system in place to guarantee that your paperwork is going to get checked. You know, sometimes you have dudes come to prison who are non-affiliates and nobody asks to see their paperwork. Sometimes dudes come to prison and they're gang members and their homies is not checking their paperwork. But like I said, my problem is just making the blanket statement like all blacks run a free program and they don't care about that whatsoever. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a brother by the name of Damian Porter who has a relatively new prison channel with great stories. In one of his recent stories, he told about being in the county jail when some brothers went so far as to get all the names of the people who were snitching. They called it the snitch list.
They had a snitch list that they carried around, and they obtained this snitch list by going in the computer, pulling up people's cases, and finding out the ins and outs of the case. If this person was telling on his case or not. And some of these dudes were snitching, and they were on the snitch list, and they were being hunted down in the Los Angeles County Jail.
Now, I'm not necessarily trying to glorify those acts, but what I'm saying is this here. Those are the things that happen in prison. And these dudes who sign up for that type of lifestyle know what's expected of them before they sign up. So in the event they sign up and they don't stick to the expectations, they already know what the end result is going to be. From time to time, I'll listen to prison stories from other races. And there are times when I will often hear stories that are contrary about the more positive narrative that's placed out there about some of these other races, right? They love to say the blacks don't check paperwork. One thing I do know about prison and one thing I do know about life, there is nothing that is 100% absolute. Make no doubt about it. There is a big distinction between what people, quote unquote, are supposed to do and what people actually do, right? And that's just human, right? So like I say, they always say that the blacks never check paperwork and the Hispanics always check paperwork. Well, listen to this clip right here from a story told on a guy on the channel, Story from a Current Prisoner.
But anyways, for the story, I'm going to take you back to 2000 in Ironwood. You know, when I was in Ironwood there. Now, see, like as I told on my last story, you know, right there on their yard, before I took it over, they weren't checking paperwork. And this was actually happening in all Ironwood. You know, because this vato, he was over there on Sea Yard, and he's been there for a minute, and this fool had an R in his jacket.
You clearly heard him say that he was down in Ironwood and the Southerners down there weren't checking paperwork on any yard, right? Well, of course, you're going to have people say, man, well, the dudes who go on that channel and tell stories are dropouts, SNYs, so on and so forth, right? Or they may say, chill, you know, you only inserted a small portion of his story and you took his words out of context. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link to that video and all these other videos so you guys can go and listen to the video in its entirety and make your own decision, right? And so then what I suggest, listen to the dude's story, listen to his demeanor. That way you can decide for yourself whether he's credible, whether it sounds like he has an axe to grind or whatever. Actually, I believe that particular story was told by a dude who said he has cancer. And in my opinion, what he's trying to do now is just simply clear his conscience. And actually, if you listen to it, you'll notice that there is no recording beeping every maybe 4 or 5 minutes as if he's calling from the prison. So it seems like he's somewhere free calling from his own phone. So like I said, just check that story out and listen to it in its entirety and come to your own conclusion. Those are not my words. Those are his words. Now, of course, you know, each individual who does time, regardless of what race he is, has his own experiences, right? Everybody share different experiences. Like I told you guys, I've done 24 years straight. I have never been involved in a riot with the Southern Mexicans in prison, right? We had a few standoffs, but I was never involved in a riot. Now, of course, I did a video about that recently, and you had some dudes in the comments that were saying, oh, well, chill, that's because you guys didn't want no smoke. Well, you can look at it either of two ways, you know. You can look at it like that, or you can also look at it like they didn't want no smoke with the blacks. The thing about it is, man, it's a thing of respect, you know. Nobody necessarily wants to go to war to have riots, because riots stop and inconvenience what everybody in prison is trying to do to make their lives a little bit more convenient. And the bottom line is, no race as a whole is scared of no race, man. The Asians are rioters. The whites are rioters. The Mexicans, north and south, are rioters. The blacks are rioters. So nobody is scared of anybody in prison, right? You know, a lot of times I know when we do these prison stories, it brings about a bit of racial pride, and a lot of us will get caught up in our racial feelings, and we'll hear stories about these racial riots, and of course we'll be rooting for whatever race we're from or whatever race we identify with, and we want that race to win. But sometimes that's just not always the case, you know. So I don't know if some of these narratives are done intentionally or unintentionally, right? Because like I said, everyone has a different experience. I just know from time to time I'll hear things what I believe is inconsistent with how I done time. And as I stated earlier, up until recently, there was not a lot of black YouTubers in the prison genre. So maybe our experiences has not been shared as much as others. And so at times, other narratives will get out there by other races, and a lot of people will believe them. Due to the fact that I have done a lot of prison time, when I listen to prison stories, I listen different. I hear things that the average person, especially the person who has not been to prison, may not hear, may not pick up on. A while back, right, I was listening to a story told by Dubs, and he said that they had never lost. So, of course, that gives the listener who has never been to prison that the Mexicans, of course, always dominate the blacks. So check this out right here.
Next thing you know, we go to yard the next day, and they only let out 11 of us. And imagine that, 11. And I remember it was towards the end of the yard, probably had about 20 minutes left. And there was 7 of us on the top of the yard, and there was 4 down by the canteen. And we noticed the grouping, right? And I remember looking down at the homies down by the canteen, the homies I was with. We were like, this is going to go down in history. The first time we lose.
So during the course of that story, he was talking about there was a confrontation on a prison yard between the blacks and the Southsiders. And for whatever reason, on that particular day, it didn't happen to be a lot of Southsiders out on the yard. So, of course, if you've never been to prison and you heard him say that was going to be the first time we lost, then you're going to automatically assume that, okay, the Mexicans are constantly in there smashing on the blacks. Just recently, I heard him tell another story. I believe he said he was in Calipatria, which is a prison down in Southern California. But during the course of this story, there was a lot of racial animosity on all the yards between the blacks and the Mexicans, with the exception of D Yard. I believe at one point in the story, he said the Mexicans approached the blacks, maybe specifically the Bloods, about removing some blood who had showed up, who had done something and needed to be removed in the opinions of the Mexicans. He said the next day, the blacks in turn rushed and stabbed, I believe it was 6 Mexicans.
So this dude goes and tells the homies, hey, I told you about today, everything's speed, man, they don't want pedo, you know what I mean? We're just going to continue making our money. The next day, the Bloods whacked 6 Southerners. 6 Southern raza. Whacked them. In the process, they fought back. A few of them took the knives. I think 5 of the 6 got shot with a mini by the Hurons. So they got stabbed and shot.
And so while I'm definitely not including that story to try to get some brownie points for the blacks, I'm just saying that for a person who've never been to prison, you have to understand that these conflicts, these stabbings, these fightings, they go back and forth. You know, sometimes you may have the Southern Mexicans who get the upper hand of it, and sometimes you may have the blacks who get the upper hand of it. And that's the only thing that I'm trying to say. By, of course, being black, when I constantly hear things that are not true, I definitely feel that, you know, it's only fair if I come on here and I share my experiences if they are contrary to the negative narrative that I feel is being placed out there. You know, sometimes I hear people tell these stories and they'll seem genuine. Sometimes I hear people tell stories and in my opinion, they're obviously biased and have a dislike for blacks. And of course, the dislike is on both sides of the coin. You'll have a lot of blacks who have dislikes for Mexicans just due to the negative experiences they have experienced in prison. I recently ran across a channel by a Paisa, and I don't know the name of the channel, but I will definitely try to get the link and share the link with you guys. In this story, the Paisa goes on to talk about how on one particular day, the blacks smashed the SURENO'S and the Paisa. He goes on in the story to talk about weeks later, or however long it was, that when everybody was once again let off lockdown, the Mexicans came back and they smashed the blacks. So this goes back and forth. This goes back and forth. You know, I'm definitely not doing this to try to make one race look weaker than the other. My thing is, if you have never functioned with any organization in an intimate, up and close, personal type of relationship, then you don't know specifically how that car actually works or runs. So to make a statement, which is essentially a blanket statement and covers everybody, I believe is unfair, it's untrue, and I definitely believe it's my obligation to dispel those myths, because that's exactly what they are. You definitely have many black convicts from Southern California up to Northern California who disagree with doing time and refuse to be around people who have undesirable charges. Anyway, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.